you remember a few days ago when I planted those hydrangeas in grow bags and then I moved them over by the driveway and they looked absolutely fantastic? Well, that night we had a little bit of rain, so I was a little worried when I got up, wondering if it was going to have beaten down a little bit, but they came through with flying colors. Well, that was until 4 o'clock yesterday when a huge storm came through. Not only did we have torrential rain, we also had wind, and they said the gusts could get up to 60 miles per hour. I don't think it got anywhere near that. However, it did do a number of my hydrangeas, and so I was a little disappointed, but I figured they'd come through it. And that was until 4 p.m. today when an even more powerful storm came through. And not only was there the rain pouring down, but the wind was much stronger than the day before. And the end result, well, unfortunately, it's a rather flat hydrangea. Let's take a closer look and see if we can save this thing. So when I say flat, I mean flat. I mean, there's one stem that has made it through this storm and all the others are laying flat on the ground. So the first thing I'm going to look for is any stem damage. So you can see I do have one broken stem right there, and I'm going to want to cut that off. I'll just cut it off a little below there. These other stems have all made it through okay, so they can kind of recover, but they are being weighted down by the flowers, and then they also have kind of weakened a little bit from this. So we have a couple options. So we could do what we did with the hydrangea trees, where we cut off the tips of the flowers and that lightens the load. However, in this case, because we don't have the risk of them going way down like we do with the trees, where they'd be going past, say, a 45-degree angle, that we don't necessarily have to do that. We have the option to be able to stake or tie them, and I think that's going to be what we're going to try to do. Now, it's still not ideal. Next year they are going to come back in really good shape and they'll be able to hold these flowers, but this is a young hydrangea that's having trouble. And the interesting thing is that these other two beside it were laying pretty low at the end of the storm, and they have bounced back, and they're the same age. It just so happens that this one is the weak one of the bunch. But again, next year it's going to be just fine. So at the end of the season, when we take away any stakes or anything that we use, we're going to take a look at how these branches fared. If they were able to get stronger and come back up, then that's going to be fine. If they're still pointing outward like this, then we're going to give them a trim at the end of the season after they go dormant. So we usually say trim them at least at the second leaf set. So this is one leaf set here, 2 leaf sets. This would be the third. So we could cut it anywhere along here. We want to cut it so that next year it's going to start growing back upwards. We want to get that shape to keep growing up. We don't want to start a horizontal line. That's usually not so great for the plants. So I'm going to show you a little example of what I'm going to do with this, and then I think I can show you how well the other hydrangeas did. So now looking at some of our other hydrangeas, you can see the ones that are more established are doing really well. Now this one behind me, you can see the flowers have bowed a little bit, but over time those are going to bounce back up. It's just going to take a day or two and then they do well. So once a hydrangea is established, you don't have those problems of them falling down or collapsing unless it's something really big. I'm going to show you a couple more that are further down. So some of these varieties came through completely unscathed, and you can see how good they look. Others, the flowers might be bowing just a little bit, but not too much of a problem. This is the one that I had just tied up, and that's all I used was just some garden tape. You could use string or rope. A lot of different things would work. Just don't use anything that's so thin that it could start cutting into the stems. So if you used a thin wire or something like that, and with the wind moving, it could cause some problems. This is gonna actually be pretty safe like this. Meanwhile, we have a couple others. This one here is having some trouble. It looks like it was distressed to begin with. You can see there's some nothing new growing on this part of it, and then this part that still is okay, actually has broken away. So this is a stressed out plant here, so we're gonna have to do something about that. Not that common. Now this one over here is a limelight. You can see the flower heads are kind of bowing down. It's not so happy, but I think it probably is going to come back. However, if I do notice that these stems stay down all the way at the end of the season, I am going to trim them back, and next year it's going to come back fuller. And I'm going to show you some of the plants that we have that we've trimmed already, so you don't have to be so nervous about trimming them back. You'll see what happens. So, I mean, take a look. There's a little difference. You know, some of them are bowing more than others, but again, not much damage considering how much rain we got and how much wind. So, you know, they're just doing really good. This one here is one that I planted, and what's actually happened is that it's just loose down at the bottom. It, you know, doesn't have any roots other than its original, so I'm going to have to really work with that one. I might actually have to take it out of there and repackage it or something like that. But that one was just planted this week, and I don't think it's going to root real well in that angle, so we're going to have to work on that one. And then we come over here. Here's one that is a little struggling, but that's because of these huge flower heads. So these are, I think, the little limes or Zinfandels or one of those, and that's just the size of those flower heads that's causing all that stress on the plant. What I've also done with the grow bags is I can also kind of turn them so they're facing in a little different direction. That can help. So you can see some are showing more signs from the rain than others, and then you have things like these pinky winkies that have been around for a little while. They have really strong branches, so they're not having any trouble. So anyway, this is where things are at. Let me go show you some of the trimmed hydrangeas to give you some confidence on that. And we're having a really good sunset tonight, so I'm thrilled to see that. So let me go in the greenhouse and show you some trimmed ones. My walk over to greenhouse 3, I thought I'd show you some of the aftermath of the storm. Now we can just pick these up. It won't be a big deal at all, but it's just frustrating because it takes a good bit of wind for all these to get knocked down like this. So it's gonna be a little bit of a chore tomorrow, but I'm gonna leave them until the wind dies down. No need to pick them up now and then pick them up again, because I had to pick them up this morning already. So we're gonna wait till tomorrow. So I made it to greenhouse 3. This is where we're growing a lot more hydrangeas, and this is also where we kind of put some of our infirmed plants. So I'm going to show you some here that were just trimmed within the last, say, 3 or 4 weeks, and you can see the results. So here are a couple of plants that we had to trim, and you can see if you look right in there, that's where we trimmed it. But the great thing is look at all that new growth that's coming up. So there's going to be 3 branches where that one was. And we had to cut these because they were getting just too big and long, and they were starting to flop. So we're going to sacrifice flowers and branches this year so that we're going to have a better shrub next year. So you can see all of these have that great effect going. And this is also why we want to make sure that we always leave 2 leaf sets whenever we're trimming, like close to the bottom. If you go lower, so let's say I were to trim something way down here, if I cut it more down here, this probably won't end up sprouting. We need to have those little nodes coming out, and that's what ends up leafing out for us. I'll show you on another one, a better example. So this hydrangea was trimmed more recently, and you can see how we trimmed it there, and we cut it or trimmed it right above the leaf set, and you can see those little nodes that are going to start sprouting, and it won't be long before we start seeing a little bit of growth, kind of like what we see right here. And as that grows, it's going to end up being a full branch. So don't panic about your hydrangeas. They're actually very good about recovering from those kind of situations. If it helps, think of your trimming kind of the equivalent of a deer coming along and nibbling off the tip of a plant or of your hydrangea. You're just simulating that. Your hydrangea is used to that happening in nature, so it has a way of recovering from it. So don't panic too much. If you do have to do a little trimming, it's okay. It's completely natural, but it's never any fun, and you're just going to have to overcome that if you want to have really great, healthy plants, and if you want to be able to make one recover that maybe is in a bad situation. So I'm going to keep sharing some of my failures as well as my successes. I hope you guys don't mind, and I hope you're having a great week. Talk to you soon.